This is News 10 at 6, connecting with our community.
Well, the Tea Party is over, but the guests, they are vowing not to go home and be quiet. Tens of thousands marched on Washington, D.C. Saturday to protest President Obama's proposed health care reform.
They're taking our liberties away. It's tyranny. It's a Gestapo-type tactic.
There's too much involvement in the government. We can take care of ourselves.
They can have my country when they pry it from my cold, dead fingers.
Well, the confrontations at times, they became extremely heated. On the other hand, many maintained a more civilized protest, albeit with posters depicting President Obama as a Nazi and a communist. The fact that thousands participated in the march, though, cannot be ignored, and organizers of the Tea Party, which stands for Taxes Enough Already, those organizers vow to have more parties as the president maintains his push to gain support for the reform from everyday Americans. But it is how everyday Californians are viewing the proposed reforms, and the Tea Parties as well, that are protesting them, that's behind us inviting Craig DeLuce, who's a Republican aide here in Sacramento, and as well former Senator John Burton, who is now the president of the California Democratic Party. And John Burton is joining us by phone. But Craig, we're going to start with you first about the anger that seemed to be present at the protests. And I guess it's wondering if that is how the participants as a whole, do you think, are truly feeling?
Well, I would have to say that most definitely it is. You need to understand that this is a group that largely hasn't been out there, hasn't been active, hasn't been protesting, but is extremely frustrated with the direction that this administration is going, time after time, seeming to work against, quite frankly, the interest and the views of the electorate in terms of advancing things like government-run health care.
Okay. Senator John Burton, on the phone with us. Just want to ask you very quickly, do you see the Democrats, though, yielding, giving any kind of compromise at all on the public option aspect of health reform?
This had nothing to do with health reform. When you have people, one side calling him a communist, the other side calling him a Nazi, I think they were smoking tea instead of drinking it. I mean, they're just a bunch of angry people. Listen to Rush Limbaugh and get off. They aren't discussing health care. They're God knows what they're discussing when they call the President of the United States a traitor, when they question where he was born. I mean, you have people like Bob Dole and Orrin Hatch who are willing to discuss health care, these people, you know, I don't think that any one of them voted for Obama. I don't even know if they voted for Bush. They probably voted for, you know, God knows who, maybe Ron Paul or somebody.
But how critical, Mr. Burton, how critical do you see, though, that there has got to be some consensus from both the folks who are on the right and who are organizing the Tea Parties and the public as well on the left?
There does not have, you have a consensus with people that call the President of the United States a traitor, that they call him a communist on one hand and a Nazi on the other? I mean, you don't need a consensus with them. You need to ignore them and have a consensus with reasonable people who have reasonable differences about what a health plan should be. There's not anybody that wants to get rid of Medicare or Social Security or the United States Army, Navy, and Marines, all of which are government-run programs.
Well, Mr. Burton, hold on, because I want to ask Craig about that, because we're seeing the scene from the Capitol right now, Capitol Mall in Washington, D.C., thousands of people. It's not just you have a few hundred, literally tens of thousands of people turned out, and I don't see how you ignore that, how you just dismiss those people like what John Burton was saying and say, let's just move on.
Well, it's something that seems to be very, very typical, quite frankly, of the Democratic Party. Here in California, time after time, the California State Legislature has ignored the votes of the people and the wills of the people and gone and done whatever it is that they decide they want to do.
Well, we're talking about on a national level. Let's get
on a national level, it's no different. Every poll is showing that the voters do not support government-run health care, and yet this president seems to continue to go forward. Time and time again, they just seem to ignore the will of the voters and what it is that people want. And people are getting angry about it because in a time when we have even less resources, when times are getting tougher, now you have the government reaching even deeper into our pockets, into our children's pockets, and into our grandchildren's pockets, and they're tired of it.
But at some point, there's going to have to be some kind of compromise. So I'm trying to find out from either of you where the compromise is going to be. Or are you just saying there is none?
Well, compromise can't be Compromise can't be, well, we're going to let you sit at the table, but in the end, we're going to do whatever it is that we're going to do.
But you have to go forward with him at some point. You have to meet him at some point.
Well, then take any one, or at least take a look at some of the 35 health care reform proposals that Republicans have put on the table. Let's actually get them a hearing. Let's actually let the American people see what those things are. Right now, those things are being bottled up. They're not even being discussed because we have a president who has a desire to go forward with government-run health care.
Last word, John Burton.
The man's not even telling the truth. It is not government-run health care. It would be an option. Right, here's how it works. If you have a health care plan now and you're happy with it, you get to keep it. If you have a health care plan but you're not happy, you can change it. You have no health care plan, we will get you one. And as an option, you might be able to go into a program that is government-supported. And nobody's argued against Medicare that I know about, or Social Security, or the health care system for Army, Navy, and Marine people. So, I mean, it's a bogus argument. You know, they can't do it. They lost an election. They lost it big. And they listen to these idiots like Limbaugh and Mike Savage and God knows who, and they figure, let's call it a Tea Party. I mean, you know, that's supposed to be against taxes, not against taking care of sick people.
Very good. John Burton, thank you so much for joining us by phone. President of the California Democratic Party, Craig DeLuce, a Republican aide, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be right back after this.